Cynthia Totska would have been remembered in history by her real name and not her internet persona, Cinebear. She would have remained an ordinary girl who spends most of her spare time outside school working at GameStop. Except that she joined YouTube and casually moved from this to this. Yep, almost 23 million views in just 2 years. No talking head videos, no lifestyle content, she never even showed her face, just short animations and meme clips. What's even more alarming is how quickly Cine moved from being one of YouTube's most loved and entertaining creators to one of YouTube's most disliked, most apologetic, and most controversial creator.
I've c***ed a minor.
A few moments later.
I am not a groomer.
So, what actually happened? Another internet misunderstanding blown out of proportion? Or was Cine guilty as charged? This is the rise, fall, and silence of Cinebear. Cinebear has been an active YouTube creator for a while now. She's been putting up her artistic work as far back as the 2010s. When Cine had her YouTube debut in the 2010s, just like any new creator, she didn't expect to be known immediately, and she also probably didn't expect the fame that was coming. Her pieces were really good, no doubt. So good that people will still go back to rewatch these videos years later and keep asking for more. That's because the stories were so real, graphic, and emotive. Back then, Cynthia was known as Scootaloo Loves Sans. Her name was a mashup of two extremely popular fandom characters at the time. She kept trying her hand on different things, experimenting, until her first big hit. And boom! 1.6 million views. 6 short days after this, Cine put up this 38 that earned her a brief 38 seconds of artistic finesse, and voila, almost 23 million views. Only a few creators can actually pull that off. We're talking about the likes of KB Lane, who could get up to 47 million views on a single YouTube short. But his normal YouTube videos don't perform so well. When there's Zach King, whose actual videos can get as high as 71 million views, but that clip was more than 4 minutes long. But the Cine viral clip was neither a YouTube short, nor was it up to 1 minute long. It wasn't a talking video or a skit. It was a simple M-E-M-E, a meme. After that video peak in 2017, everything changed. Cine became popular. Her views picked up from hundreds of thousands to millions. People found her entertaining, and she's easily won their hearts. What's most interesting about this entire thing is how unconventional Cine was. She didn't have a rigid upload schedule, probably didn't have a content calendar, unlike many other YouTubers. We didn't even know the face behind the channel. It just looked like she was having fun, doing what she loved, free from any form of pressure and rigid structure. She started gaining more supporters and fans by the day, and was gaining traction in top meme and animation circles. More videos started coming up, and soon enough, she had an established fan base, and her other social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, DeviantArt, and Tumblr were also reading up on numbers. Her subscriber count kept reading up day after day, and she was getting good reviews. Cine was in her prime, and she took advantage of this moment to stand out from the fandom affiliation.
Oh heck, the washing machine's gonna be in the background. I'm restarting Ponytail! There's nothing you can do about it. You can go read it on DeviantArt, and you can say goodbye to the ask format. I'm tired of it. Get out of here, it's dumb, it's stupid, it's
Cine wasn't set out to be just another creator. No, she wanted to stand put. She wanted to shine with her own unique persona and voice, and she got just that. Sadly, it's very easy to forget that nicknames aren't actual people, especially when discussing online personalities. They're more or less disguises, branding. There are mediums that our brains create to escape from reality, and that's what Cine basically did. After she uploaded her first video ever, her online personality was more or less a mask. The real person behind the facade was Cynthia Totska, and what most of the general public knows about her ends here. However, between then and now, Cine has gone from being an internet sweetheart to being not so well liked. Which begs the big question, starting with the rumors. Sometime in September 2024, Cine was accused of using Discord to exchange and receive pornographic material with a minor, and as you'd expect, things immediately got out of hand. Jack, her roommate at the time, who goes by Birdie online, came forward to back these allegations.
Here's what I'm aware of. Cine was in contact with a 14-year-old with the username Eno, and they'd been talking for 6 months. Cine sent Eno including sadomasochistic. She encouraged them to draw and would get upset when they wouldn't.
As you'd expect, the internet was in an uproar. Hearing these rumors from random people was totally different than hearing it from someone who was thought to be close friends with Cine. They were roommates. Anyway, Birdie didn't stop there. He had so much more to say. Major update, something horrible dawned on me. She has my old PC at her apartment. I didn't bring it with me and I can't get it. I can't drive, nor do I have the key. She's trying to ruin my life and I'm powerless to stop her. I changed my passwords, but that's all I can do. In another tweet, he said, Cine had my password and used it to get into my Discord account to find incriminating screenshots of me shit-talking her. I just had to change my passwords on everything, including my bank accounts and emails. I will not be silent about this. Fuck you, Cynthia. You deserve to rot in hell. He put up a lot of posts on Twitter about Cine's strange behavior that has us all worried for his safety. He also talked about how poorly she treated him. And it seemed like that was what Jack was most upset about. These financial disputes seemed to have been existing for a long time, but Cine didn't address them head on. Jack wasn't comfortable with it, so he called her out where it would hurt the most: social media. The unfair financial treatment triggered Jack to speak publicly about other issues they had behind closed doors. And then, soon enough, he started saying that living with Cine no longer made him feel secure. Started posting death threats from Cine, which, as you would expect, earned him more sympathy. Birdie ran to the internet with all this evidence and started talking about moving out so he could be safe, and Cine wasn't helping matters. When this text message leaked, many people started to believe Birdie, so the moment he started a GoFundMe campaign and made it public, people started sending money. He set a $10,000 goal and he reached and exceeded his target in just 2 days. He put up an appreciation tweet to everyone when this happened, and when he announced that he had finally moved out of Cine's apartment, the internet was overjoyed. Then, Jack also came out to say that he was going to release another video about Cinebear. Everyone assumed he wanted to spill more tea, and they had their teacups in hand, ready to be served. Unfortunately, they never got served because Jack came out to say he couldn't go deeper into the situation because it was unsafe for him. After this, I honestly thought that'd be all on the subject, but nah. Jack came back to clarify everything he had previously claimed. He started explaining the details of his acclaimed sexual assault. He explained that there was some groping involved and apparently it was consensual, although after he gave it some thought, he felt a little uneasy. At this point, public opinion was a bit scattered. Everyone was agreeing to disagree. Some people stood with Birdie, others with Cinebear, and some others stood for neither of them.
How old do you think Daddy is?
42. Oh, I mean, Daddy's old. I think he's 7.
Either way, Birdie walked away with more than $11,000 US. Now, this is one part that is almost impossible to ignore when discussing the Cinebear drama. Not the rebranding, not the hiatus, not even the fallout with her roommate. Most people could see through Jack, he wasn't a saint either. But Inno was different. Young, naive, innocent, and most of all, vulnerable. Everything seemed to have happened on Discord. According to the minor, Cine used Discord to have inappropriate conversations with them. Although this is often compressed into a single line on the internet, the reality is much more complex and deeper than that. These claims first came to light in September 2024. At first, it just seemed like some people in her inner circle were trying to poke holes at her public image, probably due to an internal misunderstanding. Not until someone released a Google document that contained more than enough convincing evidence. The first page of this document read, "The artwork in this document is censored, the NSFW, but the conversations that me and her had are still graphic, and I would recommend being 16 years or older if you're going to read this. I feel like I need to reiterate that Cine is not a pedophile, but a groomer. She was not attracted to me for being a child. She did not date me, she me." Whoever created the document also not only took the time to clearly explain and define their relationship with Cine, they also documented all the chats and exchanges they had with each other. What's worse, Cine didn't have these conversations ignorantly. She seemed to be fully aware of the age of the person she was interacting with, but that didn't stop her. In fact, it seemed to be the driving force and adrenaline for these interactions. They would also talk for long hours. Allegedly, Cine didn't only communicate with this person via text, they also had long, frequent calls and voice messages. This was her second confirmation at the person's age, and even after that, she still went ahead to initiate inappropriate discussions with a minor. The news spread on the internet like wildfire because the Google document with all the evidence was very accessible. Now, it was not just that communication took place between Cine and a juvenile. I mean, many creators speak with younger fans. But in this case, it was rather that the nature of those exchanges was said to have gone beyond the generally acceptable and moral bounds. These materials started spreading like wildfire as screenshots, writing, commentary videos, Reddit threads, wikis for fandoms, call-out posts on Tumblr, etc. Whenever the conversations got too deep and the person couldn't catch up, she'd go the extra mile to explain. Education. Bear in mind that the person censored in blue is one of Cine's adult friends that she would also share scenarios with, but she decided to share their conversations with Inno because she wanted to tell him some of the scenarios. This even goes ahead to prove that Cine wasn't doing this with just one person, starting to look more like a habit, maybe even an addiction. Now, if these allegations had come from just one person, it could have been possible to say it was probably staged or address it as a one-time mistake, but this was just one out of the many others that spoke up on the subject, and all of them were backing up their claims with graphic evidence. Then another victim named Daniel was also very vocal about his own experience on Twitter. He released an entire thread just to talk about the Cine drama. Notice how all of them follow the same pattern. They start by making it very clear that Cine was not oblivious of their age while these conversations were being made. Cine also seemed to target the most vulnerable minors. So at first, Danny was just a concerned fan who reached out to Cine to be sure she was okay. She could have said, "Oh yeah, I'm good," and left it at that, but she didn't. So she was emotionally manipulating him because she knew he was naive. Telling a minor about the issue she was having with coworkers and her roommate, how's he supposed to understand or render any help? Frankly, it's none of his business. Be my friend? Okay, Cine, how are you going to defend this one? Think you've seen enough? Nah, there's more. Yep, Cine took the time to write a boy comic and shared it with minors. If all the other evidence didn't do justice, this one did. It'll be rather difficult to describe this last piece of evidence to you, so we'll just show you instead. Once this was released, Cine was left dumbfounded. Most people would go off the radar after this, but Cine didn't. She uploaded a response video where she acknowledged that she was wrong, expressed her regret, and said that she was going to seek therapy. Unfortunately, she deleted the video shortly after.
I've a minor.
A few moments later.
I am not a groomer.
And put up this post on her YouTube. And the comments that came after this post weren't pretty at all. And this last comment hit the nail on the head. No mincing words, because honestly, after hearing the allegations laid against her, no one wanted to be associated with Cine. Even before other personal conflicts surfaced, this allegation alone was enough to derail Cine's career because it involved a minor, private messaging, a platform known for blurred boundaries, and it contradicted the trust her audience placed in her. Some viewers felt betrayed, especially those who had grown up watching her content. Surprisingly, there were no court charges, or at least no court cases were made public or shared online, and neither were any statements from law enforcement made public. This sort of explains why the internet served as judge, jury, and archivist, for better or worse. After the unexpected revelation and Cine's deleted apology, she went off the radar for a while. No videos, no posts, no tweets, no content, she was on a media hiatus. Some people thought she was running away from the situation, trying to avoid taking responsibility, but some others thought it was the only logical way to proceed. Both opinions were wrong, because what we didn't know was at that time, Cine was busy trying to fix the entire situation.
Everyone makes mistakes. I've had more than my share, but it's okay cause I'm gonna repair it.
And when she came out, she deleted her initial apology and put this up instead.
Nothing in the past week has made sense. I was completely convinced that I was a predator and a groomer and that I needed intervention. I'm realizing I might not even have a clear understanding of what grooming is. I believed I groomed a child because Jack told me I did, and I believed him because I trusted him. But Jack doesn't know what he's talking about. I made my confession under duress. I fully believed I was a groomer because Jack told me I was one, but I don't believe that anymore. I am not a groomer. I did not groom Eno.
She basically denied the entire thing, starting off by defining grooming and saying that what she did didn't tick all the boxes in the definition of grooming. And then she went ahead to blame Jack for everything. This was really unsettling because it forced us to face the reality that relationships formed online are not always genuine, and harm doesn't always need malevolent intent. She also claimed that she never tried to educate Eno on anything, but the Google document he put together proved otherwise. Honestly, the entire video just made it seem like Cine was trying so hard to be right. She just wanted to look good at whatever cost.
I did not select them. In fact, they talked to me first. Substance misuse. Didn't do that. Now there's some other things that we really need to discuss when we're talking about this whole grooming situation. So firstly, I am a hetero woman. I am attracted to men, as you can see from these fucking cringy ass conversations that I had with Eno. I did not want to date Eno. I never considered that as an option. I did not reach out to Eno, and it took Eno 3 months of persistently pestering, prying, clearly warped, and these conversations just sounded like, I'm quoting Kumo, locker room girl talk. I myself have never been very social. I would even call myself socially inept. I'm a bit of a retard. So I never considered that there was an existing dynamic that sounded similar to my conversations. This was two girls talking about Jeremiah down the block and how hot he is. Once again, I feel the need to make this painfully clear that I am not excusing how I talk to Eno.
She mentioned the names of some of her supporters, like Kumo, to back her points, although later on we found out that even that was a deliberate move and Jack warned us ahead of time. All the while, when many had assumed Cine was in therapy, repenting and getting better, she was actually doing something entirely different behind the scenes. Cine put together a team of creators who'd spend extended time digging up information and assessing the situation to help Cinebear return as a saint, and I think the strategy was to blame Jack. That's a picture of Cine's journal. Another reason why it looked like blaming Jack was the strategy is the fact that Cine released an apology video, but rather than apologizing, she spent half the time blaming Jack and responding to this video?
Nothing in the past week has made sense. I was completely convinced that I was a predator and a groomer and that I needed intervention. I'm realizing I might not even have a clear understanding of what grooming is. I believed I groomed a child because Jack told me I did, and I believed him because I trusted him. But Jack doesn't know what he's talking about. He's the one who brought the situation to the public. He made a lot of points in his video, and I have a lot to say about them. I'm gonna be going more in depth on the things that Jack complained about in his video. I'd like to just get started. Jack's behavior throughout this situation has been really fucking strange, and I have to question what his motivation was, both in this situation and honestly in our friendship. I'm not sure why he felt like he needed $10,000 from a GoFundMe just to get away from me. That's a shit ton of money. Maybe it's for a fresh start, but it feels a bit exploitative. It feels strange to make a video educating people about someone you believe to be a predator and then ask for a shit ton of money that isn't even meant to help the victim. I feel like he could have asked for enough to buy a plane ticket and a few months of food. Even then, I'm thinking about how we spent 4 days in Seattle for vacation, and Jack's family was exceptionally generous. His aunt let us sleep on her couch for those 4 days, and his grandparents each gave us hundreds of dollars just to shop in Seattle, as well as paying for our plane tickets to and from Seattle. But I heard the aunt suggesting Jack ask his papa for expensive gifts because he's likely to buy them for him. If Jack needed money, I feel like he could ask his grandparents for help. Plus, his aunt went to fucking law school. She could probably help him find affordable housing under the guise that Jack is too disabled to work. I feel like his family would be more than likely to help him since Jack keeps framing the situation as an emergency. He needs to get away from City Borough 3 right now! I've also seen plenty of people questioning the use of the panty and stocking designs on his GoFundMe page. I actually asked him that too, because he showed me the page when he made it. I asked why he was using a picture of the two of us, and his explanation was that he just threw it all together. I didn't push any further. I saw a lot of people also pointing out that it was weird to include the panty and stocking animation. I kind of agree. It's strange that in the video where you're warning everyone about Cine Borough 3, the predator, the freak,
I'm not a freak, unlike Cine.
you include an animation of me dancing on a stripper pole and taking off my panties.
And why did it even take her so long to reply in the first place?
Jack claims I assaulted him, which is just not true. In his video, he shows a screenshot of me losing my mind over the fact that he was saying I assaulted him. This, plus the fact that Jack admits to consenting to me touching him, should have tipped y'all off that he was talking out of his ass.
Touching back on, Cine's, assault towards me, I'd like to preface this by saying this is gonna get kinda graphic, so I'm sorry. On a daily basis, she, makes comments about my ass, how big and squishy it is, and how she wants a boyfriend with an ass like mine, and she would constantly slap it and grab it. And I'm gonna be honest, I consented to this because I've never had an IRL friend before, and I didn't know what kind of touching was and wasn't okay. And, I also consented to her, touching my boobs. And, I guess, this stuff is fine because I consented to it, but there's stuff that she did that I didn't consent to. She would often poke me, in the ass or, on my and, make jokes about me, and, I told her not to do this, and I said no multiple times, and I would even, scream if she did it, but she did it even as recently as, a few nights ago, I think. I still have my doubts about, my feelings about this because, with that thing, I didn't continue to say no, and I confronted Cine about this, and she said she thought I was joking when I said no, which I have a recording of, but I'll show the recording later.
Yes, I did make a lot of comments about Jack's ass and how big and squishy it is. I've smacked him on the ass, I've grabbed his ass, I've even used his ass as a pillow. I've played with his and I've always asked if what I was doing bothered him or made him uncomfortable, and he's always said he doesn't mind. He doesn't care. It's fine. He says he didn't consent to me poking him in the ass or in the which I have to say, I don't know if he ever made it explicitly clear that he didn't like me poking him in the ass, and I do genuinely feel bad if I was making him uncomfortable by doing that. I say in the recording he took of me, by the way, I had no fucking idea I was being recorded, I tell him I thought he was joking when he told me no. There's a lot of things that I do to Jack expecting a specific reaction because he makes funny noises. I would often grab his face and squish it in my hand and he'd make a mrrr sound, and I thought it was funny. I would hold his nose closed, and when I let go, he would inhale really hard. Funny. I'd pinch his double chin, and he'd say, "My gizzard." Funny. When I poked him in the ass, he would scream. Not a guttural scream, like it would be easy for me to assume that he was scared or upset. It was like a silly scream, like, "Ah! Ah!" Last time I remember doing this, though, he didn't react at all. He was playing with Squirp on the cat tree, and I poked him in the ass, and he didn't react. He just kept playing with the cat. He didn't even flinch. How am I supposed to know that you don't like what I'm doing if you don't tell me? If you told me before, then it wasn't really clear. You gotta be explicit with me. I'm autistic. I'm stupid. He says I poked him in the crotch, and I have 2 memories of doing this, and both times I immediately apologized afterwards. I poked him in the gents on accident because I was trying to poke him in the ass and I went too low, and he told me, "You poked me in the veg!" And I apologized profusely and stressed that I didn't mean to. I poked him in the pubic area once and then immediately asked if it was okay to do that, and to be frank, I don't actually have a clear memory of his response. I don't know why. This isn't something I do regularly. That's why I had to question if I actually did that in the recording.
Anyway, Cine went on and on about how Jack was guilt-tripping her and lying about everything. defending and sharing her own part of every narrative Jack has shared earlier. At some point, she broke into tears, though skeptics weren't buying it because it seemed more strategic than sincere.
I can't help but think that he wanted me to myself. I love him so much, but I can't help but feel like I was used. I did everything for him. I loved him, and I thought he loved me, and I feel like he wanted me to myself. He's taken everything from me, and he's laughing at me. He's mocking me when I thought he loved me. I don't know where he is right now. I don't know if he's safe. I don't know what's happening to him. He said he was going to make a second video talking about me, but he had to stop because of something dangerous happening, and I don't know what he was referring to. I feel sick because I still care about him. I genuinely hope he is safe. I still love him, even after seeing all this. I still love him. I don't know why he's acting like this. I know he has borderline personality disorder, so I really hope that this is just him splitting on me, and maybe later down the line he'll come to his senses and realize that I'm not the monster he's saying I am. That could just be hopeful thinking.
Talking about how she still loved Jack and wanted him back, honestly, I think their love-hate relationship is tiring at this point. Even though the video wasn't accepted the way she thought it would be accepted, even though she still got a lot of hate from the video, even though she wasn't consoled when she cried, even though she was thought to be delusional to think she wasn't a with all the evidence that was raised against her, Cine continued working hard to prove her innocence. Yet, the internet has called her a weirdo.
Every single invitation to this event has been declined.
What? Let me take a look at this. Are you joking me? Hold on. Barack Obama said no? Lady Gaga said no? Oprah Winfrey said no? Oh my god, Macklemore said no!
And a lot of viral videos were circulating.
Looks like another YouTuber got exposed for liking kids.
The internet was in a rage. But Cine wasn't affected by it. That's what had many of us looking forward to whatever she was up to. She worked tirelessly with a team of creators to create something that would calm the storm, and they seemed to have gotten something really good, until the team had an internal fight and their secret was exposed.
Let's see if I can explain the Just a Robot drama in 60 seconds or less. You see, there is this YouTuber by the name of Sunny Bear who is a groomer, and Just a Robot thought it was a good idea to try and defend this person. Now, another person involved with defending Sunny Bear didn't like Just a Robot, and so he released Just a Robot's video ahead of time. Just a Robot had to release it on his end, and the defense video for Sunny Bear is absolutely awful, making weird justifications for her behavior against children. And let's just say that in the weeks following all this happening, multiple calls have been leaked, including calls and messages where he's requesting very inappropriate art of certain YouTubers, and it's absolutely disgusting. So Just a Robot, his career is over.
Kumo and Just a Robot had a misunderstanding, so Kumo leaked the video Just a Robot was working on, and to put it simply, that was the end of Just a Robot's content creation career.
Just a Robot, or JAR for short, is a commentary creator whose story becomes stranger with every layer pulled back. It's an assemblage of arrogance.
I've won almost every single drama I've been in, even when I was on the losing side.
Questionable comments.
Want to see my cock?
And ignorance of the very thing JAR was meant to provide clarity on.
You have pinned your channel to the reputation of someone and you've not even reviewed all the evidence. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with your programming, Mr. Robots?
Those clips were all in relation to JAR's video on Cine Bear 03, that to many was a defense of Cine Bear, a predator that sent graphic images to minors as well as roleplayed with them despite stating she would never do it again. Though Cine Bear did receive a fair amount of coverage, there was increasing attention towards JAR, as this all exposed a pattern of behavior that brought both ire and amusement.
It's all Harley's fault that this is happening. I could make a video and put them all 6 feet under. She's the child who was too scared to get into a call with me.
Attracted to her avatar? Boy, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What kind of... What kind of drugs are you on? You gotta be. Cause dang, like, we can't even use like this was a young person argument. Because I'm willing to forgive the behavior of like a 21-year-old, but like, someone who's been making videos or anything creative around like since 2017, you're closer to 30 than you are to 20, friend. You are so into her and she is not into you. Like, I can't even imagine some of the things that you said were nasty in the first place. And it's like, you used your girlfriend as a defense for your actions. Like, oh, I have a girlfriend. I can't be into her. Like, oh my god. Just because a girl and a guy exists doesn't mean that the guy has to be attracted.
You're probably familiar with the phrase, if I go down, you're coming with me. But with Just a Robot, it's more like, if someone goes down, I'm going to throw myself down with them. Bro is the definition of folded under zero pressure.
And soon enough, he was on the Hall of Fame of YouTubers who ruined their careers in seconds.
YouTubers who screwed up their careers in seconds part 3. Our lovely guest here today is Just a Robot. Just a Robot made commentary and political videos on his channel, and he wasn't exactly a stranger to falling off occasionally. But one incident truly sparked his downfall.
But what really went down? Before the Reddit turbulence, the viral tweets and all, Cine, Kumo, and Just a Robot were actually cool. At the time, Cine was still a hot topic on social media. She deleted all her YouTube videos, probably to cool off the steam, but people kept breathing down her neck. In fact, that move only further convinced most people that the allegations were true. So the trio were always conversing, having private discussions, voice calls, and even direct messages about Cine's allegations. Brainstorming and thinking of ways to restore her public image, even with how bad things had gotten. Just a Robot, Jar, even acknowledged that he had a private conversation with Cine before putting up this video. Jar had to take the video down shortly after because he received a lot of controversial responses from fans and anti-fans alike. People were mad at Jar for speaking for her on his platform and told him to mind his business, so Jar put the video down. Normally this would cool down with time and everyone would let it slide and go back to loving Jar again, but the exact opposite happened. Things escalated quickly and went totally out of hand. Why? Because Jar didn't just defend Cine, he publicly acknowledged that he used to think she was attractive. Just one admission? The internet went crazy. The story suddenly changed from Jar is analyzing a situation to Jar is compromised. Within a few hours, he was accused of bias in Reddit postings. Someone even created an entire playlist of almost 20 videos talking about how wrong and twisted Jar was. As if the Jar criticism wasn't enough, Kumo also joined the party. He was defending Cine publicly on live streams, making fun of critics, implying that people were being overbearing. Those streams have been taken down and are currently unavailable, but let's check out this summary on Reddit. Kumo Commentary made 2 live streams defending Cinebear03 and alleged that Birdie is a scammer. Just a Robot makes comparisons to the original Spoctor drama. As the title said, Kumo made 2 live streams with claims and thumbnails that both defended Cinebear by saying she never anyone and was not a predator. She, an adult, was talking about actual situations with a 14-year-old and was caught, so it's kinda hard to argue against the second one. With the defense that she was pressured into making a false confession. The true villain? Her roommate Birdie, who Kumo claims is scamming people for free money and is ruining Cine's reputation just to get donations. He also goes out of his way to mock and misgender Birdie both in the videos and the comments, with glowing comments such as, "If you care about pronouns, you're not fit for this world." Multiple people in the comments are claiming that Cine helped him with the videos, and while doing a little digging, I found someone claiming to be an ex-friend of hers saying this as well. In a reply to a tweet from Just a Robot saying he would not be covering the situation until he interviewed Cine, saying that he thinks this is another original Spoctor drama. I then found, through some more digging, that Birdie and this ex-friend are the source of these claims. Kumo has just recently admitted that he did in fact reach out to Cine for his stream, so the streams were in fact hidden collaborations. While people were still busy giving Kumo backlash for defending Cine, others were wondering why he was so invested in the issue. Kumo suddenly turned around and leaked one of Jar's videos hours before he intended to post. The original post has been taken down, but this is what it looked like. Kumo supposedly had access to Jar's private conversations and unreleased content. The trust was broken, and that's how the public got to know that Cine had been arranging everything behind the scenes. At this point, no one even cared whether or not it was an intentional or unintentional leak. What was more annoying is the fact that Jar wasn't being held accountable, blaming everyone else and everything else but himself. That's why, even when Jar tried to come back to YouTube years later, he wasn't accepted.
I have no pity at all for any fucking soldiers. I will never have any fucking pity for any fucking soldiers. The U.S. military? Who fucking who? I hope you get PTS. But like any other motherfucker, you're joining them, you're like, oh my god, I want my Camaro, no student loans. Fuck you. I hope you get PTSD.
Wake up, Frogan. Wakey, wakey, Frogan. It's time to wake up. This isn't a dream. This is a nightmare.
The internet hadn't forgotten what he did. The big questions that neither of them could answer was, why are all of you trying to protect someone who's clearly wrong? Soon enough, the videos were taken down, and Cine disappeared from social media for a while. Cine's actually been trying to apologize about the grooming issue since September 15th, 2024, when she posted that video titled, "I'm so sorry." She promised to start therapy, avoid social media, shut down her server on Discord, shut down her Patreon, and stop sharing artwork online. But she eventually deleted that video. After that time, she hasn't really been operational. Her channel is still active, but there's no new content. More recently, Cine's put up another apology video. She titled this one, "Final Apology," and we hope it is.
Hello, my name is CineBear03. I know this video is probably unexpected, but I've been really unhappy with the last two videos I made for a long time now. I made both videos way too soon after everything happened. My first apology video wasn't truly an apology, it was more so a reaction video to my own exposure. And the second response video was heavily puppeted by other people, and that one in particular I really despise. I'm hoping this video will serve as a better response and apology, and hopefully it can make up for the previous videos I've made.
Do you think Cinebear would ever return to social media? Are you looking forward to her return? Let us know in the comments. The internet seems to follow a trend. A new person comes in, rises through the ranks, we ignore all the warning signs, and then when everything blows up, we panic. The internet loves a good rise and fall story, but only a few crash landings are as jaw-dropping as what happened with Just a Robot. Once a fast-talking drama commentator with a devoted audience and a signature mechanical voice, he built his name mostly on calling out other creators until his own words and impulses turned the spotlight back on him.
Time. Now granted, I have been trying to change up the content on this channel to focus on more political things. I was getting on the right track with that by making my video about the differences between Andrew Ryan and Mr. House. But someone from a certain community talked about me in a video recently, and he really pissed me off. Guess which community it is? That's right, it's the ArtCC. Now I know a few people who clicked on this video are gonna ask me, wait, what's the ArtCC?
To be honest, few creators have burned through goodwill and common sense quite like Just a Robot. He started as a sharp-tongued commentator calling out hypocrisy in the art commentary scene. But behind the robotic avatar was a man drawn to pure chaos. Jar has multiple feuds and long-running vendettas that have stretched for years. There's also the sleep call DMs and off-color wanna-see-my jokes that fueled accusations of harassment. There's also his bizarre defense of Cinebear, a creator caught s***ing a minor followed by a live interview where he half-confessed an attraction to her avatar. The endless allegations of racism and sexism, from mocking black women to recycling an American History X-style outro song.
He then went on to he had made a video on something about race bending, because he always has beef with like black characters in anime. But you know what? You can have your own opinion, even though it's sus in my opinion. But anyway, in that video, he called Michelle Obama a man, and like had like some racist memes in there. Yeah, and then he's like, straight up, he just likes to say the N-word and just like say crazy things. But he says that it's because he has apparently his black roommate doesn't mind it, so...
And it's not even racism against black people.
And the jaw-dropping Bo Black's Call, where Jar casually mused about EDP, underage girls at the pool, and even favorite styles, as if oversharing were a sport. This is the story of a commentator who couldn't stop courting controversy until it literally devoured his career. Long before the robotic voice and endless YouTube controversies, Just a Robot was a quiet kid growing up in an unusually insular world. His childhood unfolded almost entirely inside the walls of his family home, where homeschooling wasn't just an educational choice, but a way of life. His mother ran a small church service right there in the living room, turning their house into a constant swirl of sermons, scripture, and visiting congregants. For a boy already shy and socially awkward, it meant that most of his early interactions were with adults in a religious setting rather than peers his own age. Cut off from the typical social milestones of school like cafeteria chatter, playground games, the daily push and pull of classmates, he found comfort in the mechanical precision of creativity. His first real outlet was a Lego stop-motion YouTube channel, a project that let him build worlds he could control frame by painstaking frame. Behind a camera and a pile of bricks, he could animate heroes, villains, and stories that moved exactly how he wanted, free from the unpredictable messiness of real friendships. But even as a teenager, conflict seemed to find him, or perhaps he sought it out. When he shifted his energy to DeviantArt, taking on the username co-author, the pattern became unmistakable. This place to share art and connect with other fans quickly turned into a battlefield. He jumped headfirst into endless drama, sparring with other users over everything from fanfiction plotlines to character designs. Small disagreements ballooned into full-blown wars of words, and his confrontational streak became a whole thing. Over time, he was hit with false accusations of murder and pedophilia, wild rumors that spread like wildfire across forums and comment threads. Instead of retreating, he seemed almost energized by the accusation. He argued back, defending himself in posts, and dissected every rumor as if each conflict were a debate to be won.
So I did a video on the political spectrum around global warming, and now I'm following it up with a political spectrum video about abortion. Now society views abortion as a much more hot-button topic than global warming. So I just want to make this clear at the start, I'm not here to share my opinion on abortion, nor am I here to change your opinion on abortion.
These early years revealed something we would come to see a lot in this video, which is a young creator who thrived on conflict, often struggling to read the room or grasp social cues, and who attracted allegations of inappropriate behavior even before he'd earned a single YouTube subscriber. By the time 2015 rolled around, the online identity he'd carried on DeviantArt had become a liability. Years of skirmishes over fan art and storylines had left the username co-author radioactive. As I said earlier, he'd been dragged into accusations of everything, from petty theft of art ideas to crazy false charges of murder and pedophilia, claims that festered in the comments sections and group chats, no matter how often he tried to debunk them, by the way. Every post he made seemed to ignite another round of finger-pointing. He knew that if he wanted a future on the internet, he'd have to start over completely. So he built a mask. Literally. In late 2015, he unveiled a brand new channel called Just a Robot, or JAR for short. Gone was the shaky teenage voice of his DeviantArt days. In its place, he used a voice changer that gave him a flat, mechanical tone and paired it with a slick, animated robot avatar. The gimmick worked on two levels. It hid his real identity from the mobs who still remembered co-author, and it gave him a hook that set him apart from the thousands of ordinary talking head commentators. To casual viewers, he was an emotionless android dissecting human foolishness. But behind the synthetic monotone was a young man who was still drawn to conflict like a magnet. JAR entered YouTube at the height of the anti-SJW commentary boom, when channels like iDubbbz, Grade A Under A were racking up millions of views by ridiculing what they called political correctness run wild. He fit the moment perfectly. His early videos tore into trending controversies, using clips of feminists or cringe culture as raw material for jokes. The edgy humor, half internet gamer vibe, half late night roast played well with the audience of the time. One week he might break down a viral college protest, the next he'd pick apart a Tumblr call-out post, all delivered in the robotic way that made his punchlines sound sharper. But the mask couldn't hide his old instincts. Feuds erupted almost immediately. One of the earliest and most memorable was with Doodletones, a well-known figure in the art commentary community, ACC. It first started as a mild criticism of each other's editing style, but spiraled into a months-long war of response videos, subtweets, and late-night Discord arguments. He relished the fight, treating every back and forth like a debate tournament. Other members of the ACC soon became targets or allies depending on the day, and JAR jumped from alliance to alliance. a presence people invited to streams partly out of fear that ignoring him would mean becoming his next opponent. Even the details of his presentation in his videos carried red flags. His outro music, which was a rousing version of the Battle Hymn of the Republic, wasn't the standard patriotic march most Americans knew. Listeners pointed out that the specific rendition he used echoed recordings adopted by white supremacist groups, a choice that struck many as tone-deaf at best and deliberately provocative at worst. Jar waved off the criticism as an overreaction, but the association lingered, especially when paired with his occasional jokes about race that leaned more cruel than clever.
My eyes have seen the glory of the cleansing of YouTube, debunking SJWs and feminazis too. We criticize reactionists in hopes they get the boot. Just a robot marches on.
And then there was his habit of inserting himself into controversies that had nothing to do with him in the first place. Whenever a drama flared, be it a fight between two mid-tier animators or a dust-up in the skeptic community, our boy Jar found a way to make a video, even if his only real contribution was summarizing someone else's receipts and declaring a winner. Many began to notice that he often parachuted in after the tide of public opinion had already turned, adding his own robotic verdict to whatever side looked like it was winning. To him, it wasn't enough to watch the storm, he had to plant his flag in it.
The funniest part about all of this is you didn't do what you did with that 14-year-old because you wanted to get with them, you just couldn't stop cooming. You coomed until you groomed. I never even heard of a situation like this happening until now.
By the end of his first year on YouTube, Just a Robot had gone from a clean slate to a recognized name in the commentary world. The robot voice, the slick avatar, the relentless need to spar had all worked to draw an audience, but the same impulses that had made co-author infamous on DeviantArt were still there, humming beneath the metallic facade. The new identity gave him reach and a veneer of detachment, yet it also amplified the love of conflict, disregard for optics, and the eagerness to provoke that would eventually make his next problems inevitable. You see, by 2017, Just a Robot sensed that the anti-SJW wave that had fueled his early momentum was starting to ebb. Bigger creators were getting demonetized and audiences were drifting toward lighter entertainment. Always scanning for the next spark of attention, he pivoted from pure commentary to cartoon and media reviews, finding a surprising hit in the bright, absurd world of The Amazing World of Gumball.
Gumball is the first kids cartoon that I know about that actually tackled this subject. The episode begins with Gumball eating lunch with Carmen the cactus, and Carmen is giving Gumball a lot of, let's be nice and call it constructive criticism.
Gumball, you need to make eye contact with people. It's how you show them you care about what they have to say. That really doesn't look like a very balanced diet. Too much greasy food is very bad for your digestive system. There. That was really wasteful. I'm fine! Happy now? No! Now it's been in the trash. It's way worse for you than it was in the first place. What do you want from me?
The move paid off quickly. His first Gumball analysis videos, which were deep dives into the show's satirical humor and fourth-wall-breaking antics, pulled in tens of thousands of views almost overnight. Viewers who had never cared about his political rants discovered him as a sharp, if sardonic, media critic. Within a year, his subscriber count passed 100,000, and the silver play button felt like a ticket to legitimacy. For a while, the channel thrived on a steady rhythm of animated series breakdowns, sly pop culture commentary, and the occasional spicy take that reminded old fans he could still throw a punch. But again, chaos was never far behind. In 2018, disaster struck when the channel was hacked. Overnight, his entire library disappeared, thumbnails replaced by gibberish and scam links. For a creator whose identity was already wrapped in layers of anonymity and past drama, the hack was both a technical and emotional gut punch. He fought through support tickets and frantic tweets to regain control, finally restoring the channel after days of uncertainty. Fans rallied and the incident briefly spiked his numbers, which is proof that controversy, even accidental, still fed the algorithm, by the way.
Hello everyone, it's been a while. Well, actually it's been exactly a week as always, but some of you are aware that I disappeared from YouTube for 3 days, because my channel got hacked. I of course quickly told Team YouTube what happened. They temporarily deleted my channel, and now it's back up. This obviously was not something fun to go through. What I went through felt incredibly scary, incredibly violating, and it was just terrible all around.
Instead of consolidating that goodwill, Jar's content began to scatter. He mixed the successful cartoon reviews with gaming rants about titles he barely played, and fringe 5544 topics like alleged government gang stalkings, a conspiracy theory about being secretly harassed by shadowy forces. Longtime subscribers were confused. One week he'd break down a clever Gumball episode, the next he'd spiral into a monologue about paranoia and surveillance. Really crazy stuff.
With their constant training in base form, allowing them to find the Super Saiyan form so easily.
100 years passed and my brother and I discovered the new Avatar.
Or at the very least, I could picture her voice coming out of Katara. She has about 250,000 subscribers and has a pretty active fan base. I have heard she flags videos that reveal her true face, and well, that is a bit of a move.
Upload schedules slipped. Videos arrived late, then barely even came at all, and the once tight focus that had carried him from obscurity to 6 figures of subscribers started to dissolve. Without a clear direction, each new video felt like a gamble, sometimes hitting the old magic, more often landing with a thud. By the end of 2019, the energy that had powered his rise was fading, replaced by an unsettling drift.
Using feminazis too. Just a robot's the guy who will teach you stuff. That Gumball is lit and T-Moss boss is shit. Superman and Goku fanboys always give me bluff. Goku fan file beyond 3D is anime and no limits fallacy. Get your pop on your top, get all the candy that you bought. Here's another episode of Just a Robot. I said I was done talking about Gumball, but then they released an episode that was so unbelievably hilarious that I just had to talk about it. And this episode is about DeviantArt. Take the 2 extreme ideologies on the internet, 4chan and Tumblr. But if you go a little bit further than 4chan, you get 8chan. And if you go a little bit further than Tumblr, you get DeviantArt.
From 2020 to 2023, Just a Robot seemed to abandon any pretense of being a neutral commentator and instead made drama his full-time environment. The ACC became his new arena. It was the perfect habitat for someone who thrived on conflict and constant attention. Inside the ACC, Jar's reputation hardened quickly. He cultivated a persona that was vengeful and unflinchingly combative, boasting in streams and DMs that revenge is what keeps him going.
Every time I go to bed and I'm about to fall asleep, I just feel angry about sometimes things that have happened 10 years ago, and sometimes I feel like revenge is the only thing that keeps me going.
Disagreements rarely ended with a single response video. They grew into long campaigns of subtweets, multi-hour livestream debates, and scorched earth rebuttals. Even minor critiques were treated as personal attacks, and he carried grudges for months, sometimes years.
I've won almost every single drama I've been in, even when I was on the losing side.
Other creators learned that once you crossed him, you were likely to be the subject of a robotic takedown, whether the issue warranted it or not.
I'd rather not stay and be corrupted by drama like so many others have before me. Now I want to make it clear, I'm still going to be talking about drama every now and then, but instead it's going to be more like what Turkey Tom does, a documentary style video.
His social interactions outside of videos only added to the tension. At VidCon 2023, multiple attendees recalled how Jar sent late-night hotel invitations to women he barely knew. Messages that read more like relentless pitches than casual meetups. During one meeting, he startled another creator by unexpectedly grabbing her hand. In private messages, he continued a pattern of inappropriate DMs, half jokes, half clumsy flirtation, totally ignoring repeated signals that his humor wasn't welcome.
Yeah, I get that. So what actually happened was, I sat down to eat some ice cream, and then I heard Ponder's voice, and I looked to my left and I noticed, that person looks like Ponder, and then I read the name tag and I was like, oh my god, this is Ponder. So I said, oh, are you Ponder Sprocket? She gave me a sticker. I shook her hand. I said, I'm also a YouTuber, and she says, oh, who? And I said, Just a Robot. She yelled out, oh my god, and I immediately let go of her hand. She says I squeezed it, but I distinctly remember letting go, like just letting go immediately because I didn't want it to linger. And then I walked away, and then when I got inside, I kind of laughed about it because of her reaction.
Meanwhile, his political and social allegiances shifted like sand. Early in the decade, he often aligned with the right-leaning Alt-CC, echoing their talking points when it suited him. but he would later flip to defend former rivals, publicly praising or collaborating with creators he'd once called enemies if it helped him win a new round of arguments or reposition himself with the majority.
A few months later, maybe a year later, I don't exactly remember the time frame, Fluffy Turbo, who was one of Chaos's friends, started going around to people, Laka Mokalaka and myself included, trying to pass off these screenshots as allegations that Jar was a minor and that he had in the past assaulted his niece. Like, I went over this stuff, and in the course of like 5 minutes I told Fluffy Turbo to shove it. But I think 2 weeks after that, she brought the allegations to the public and tried to press them. So I did a stream going through them, basically being all like, this is fucking bullshit. And in the course of the stream, some of the allegations went over the idea that Jar was racist, and I basically shrugged it off and said, yeah, we know Jar's racist, I don't care about this stuff, show me like the serious stuff. And as far as I'm aware, he's held that against me since.
To outsiders, it looked like opportunism. To Jar, it was strategy. Proof that he could outmaneuver anyone in the never-ending game of online feuds.
I also can't get help from people like Lio, Peaches, and Doodletones. The last two left YouTube and Lio's reputation is in the dirt.
I've been there for you, I've done it for years now. You didn't even have the decency to come to me about this because I was, and I quote, cancelled, which means somehow my information means nothing. That is not treating me like a friend, Jar, that's treating me like an asset.
By the end of 2023, the art commentary community saw him less as a commentator and more as a permanent combatant, someone who didn't just report on drama, but lived inside it. Every feud became fuel, every alliance was temporary, every interaction was a potential spark for the next conflict. It was a lifestyle of constant battles at this point, a cycle of provocation and retaliation that set the stage for the catastrophic choices still to come. However, in 2024, the online commentary scene was shaken when Cinebear, a mid-sized creator, was revealed to have engaged in highly inappropriate exchanges with a 14-year-old supporter. The revelations weren't just hearsay, they came in the form of hundreds of pages of carefully compiled documents, screenshots, and testimony, amounting to one of the most comprehensive evidence dumps the community had ever seen. The evidence was clear for all to see. Cinebear had crossed a line that could not be defended.
It's not a mistake, like, you can't just accidentally send a 14-year-old.
No, you can't.
You have done, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. What you did was, you have been inappropriate with me too.
Wait, how?
You know how I told you not to like poke me in the butt or like on my crotch and you still do it?
Oh, Wait, do I do it in the crotch, really?
Like, I don't know, sometimes. You still make jokes about like fingering and stuff, and you asked me to sit on your face that one time, like, I'm gonna be honest, Cine, I don't want to live with you anymore.
But where others condemned her outright, Just a Robot chose to do the unthinkable. Instead of distancing himself, he released a long video titled The Cinebear 03 Rabbit Hole. The title suggested a thorough investigation, but the content was a very, very, very different picture. Jar appeared to minimize the evidence, nitpicking technicalities while giving Cinebear ample space to explain herself. What disturbed viewers even more was the tone of the video. Instead of detached analysis, Jar came across as playful, even flirtatious.
After going through both of these massive documents in their entirety, I realized that they're just full of nothing. Oh no, Sunny drew a picture of her character in a outfit. Oh no, Sunny said I like big butts, I cannot let you a minor.
This playful interpretation of something that was actually so serious like grooming prompted another YouTuber by the name Chud Logic to go through Jar and Cinebear's private messages that was leaked on the internet. Chud made a live video as he went through the chat logs, and at first, the messages between the two was like the routine professional stuff. But Jar quickly escalated things to new highs. At one point he joked, "Want to see my rooster?" before sending a photo of a chicken. To him it may have been typical off-color humor, but to an audience already reeling from the accusations, as well as the bunch of women that have complained about his actions around them, especially at VidCon, it was more like a first-hand witness to how down bad Jar had it.
I just looked. Oh my god, dude. There's no way. Want to see my and it's a joke. What is going on, dude? This is like absurd. Each new revelation is more absurd than the last.
What followed were more leaked chat logs and voice messages showing Jar holding late-night calls with Cinebear, asking her to speak softly to him while he fell asleep.
There is no try. Oh, it's from Star Wars Episode 5 of the OG trilogy. Let's find out. I just need someone to chat with as I drift off to sleep. You can say no.
These so-called sleepy time calls blurred the line between professional commentary and personal intimacy. His use of pet names and casual compliments painted a picture of someone far more complicit than he had admitted publicly. The scandal reached its boiling point when Jar appeared on a livestream hosted by Chud Logic, expecting to defend his stance. Instead, he was confronted with the leaked material and pressed on why he had ignored the overwhelming case against Cinebear. Under the weight of the questioning, his defenses crumbled. In a startling moment, he admitted to being attracted to Cinebear's animated persona, a confession that stripped away whatever shred of objectivity he had tried to claim.
I have no interest in Cine at all.
But you do, okay, actually, let's say that. Go on.
No, actually, I want to take... No. Okay. Maybe I do have some interest in Cine. I mean, I'm a straight guy, come on.
The robotic mask that once made him sound calm and analytical now made his admission seem cold and really deeply unsettling.
What part of the logs would you like to go over with me?
And you say, I presume it's some sort of joke, want to see my... In fact, I'll tell you what. And then you send a picture of a chicken, of a rooster, of some sort of...
As you can guess, his subscribers left in droves. His number went down almost overnight. Ad partners and sponsors backed away, not wanting to be associated with the controversy. His comment sections filled with outrage, mockery, and disappointment, drowning out any attempt to explain himself further. Longtime allies turned their backs, and former rivals treated his implosion as vindication. For Just a Robot, the Cinebear disaster was the turning point where years of reckless jokes, blurred boundaries, and a hunger for attention finally caught up with him. Earlier this year, he tried to reclaim control of his narrative with a so-called apology video. Instead of a concise acknowledgement of wrongdoing, viewers were treated to a 40-minute monologue that felt more like a live dissection of his own worst impulses.
I uploaded the Cine video to my channel. All I could think about was how unprepared I was for this situation. I came across as very arrogant in that video due to past success of going against the mainstream commentary community opinion and coming out on top. Granted, often when I upload a video on YouTube, I get anxiety. I think to myself, oh no, this is the video that's going to get me cancelled. Hopefully it will go over well. That's why I try to hype myself up, because often when you come across as confident in a video, it makes people more willing to hear you out. Granted, it's a double-edged sword because it can make you come across as an arrogant douchebag as well.
From the opening minutes, it was clear this wasn't a straightforward mea culpa. Jar lurched from topic to topic, offering a scattershot list of explanations citing autism, chronic insomnia, even Adderall use, as if piling on diagnoses might somehow soften the backlash. He insisted these factors explained his offbeat sense of humor and late-night calls with Cinebear, but the effect was the opposite, as each justification just sounded like another attempt at evasion.
I don't do YouTube full-time. I have a job. I have Saturdays and Sundays off. That's why I was trying to do extra research on Saturday, as I was in the middle of asking people to look over it to see if there was any mistakes I needed to correct. I asked people like Misanthropony, Akumu, not to be confused with Kumo, and others if they could look over my video. I was even debating on whether I should have Chud look it over because he knew about the Cine situation. My roommate was also on a business trip and coming home on Saturday. I was planning to look over both docs with him very carefully. I have the worst case of dyslexia in the world, so it's very hard for me to do that myself. Yeah, my dyslexia often leads me to focus more on what I can hear rather than what I can read.
Rather than limiting the discussion to the scandal, he confessed to details no one had asked for. At one point, he casually stated that he was more sexist than racist, apparently meant as an attempt at honesty, but landing like a sledgehammer.
I said this to her in our interview, which was the first time I ever had a call with her. Like, here's the thing, I'm way more than I'm racist.
At least you're admitting to it.
What do you know? You're a woman.
He admitted to being attracted to avatars, including Cinebears, denied being a simp, and described a long history of explicit jokes aimed at both men and women, claiming he talked to everyone that way.
However, the allegations of me simping for Cine are false. I can understand why someone would believe I was simping, especially if they didn't know me as a person. I'm gonna be real here. Me saying wanna see my followed up by a picture of a chicken, or me commenting nice when someone shows me their cat, are common jokes I've made multiple times with multiple different people. I can't believe I used the same joke on the same person twice. The only compliment I gave her was calling her Mamacita. Here's the audio clip.
Alright, Mamacita, I'll hit you up when I get home.
As you can clearly see, I was making a race joke, not actually trying to hit on her. When I do hit on women, I don't put on a voice like that. I can't believe people thought this was my attempt to sound I talk to both men and women like this, it's just how I joke around.
The oversharing only grew more uncomfortable. Jar veered into stories about his girlfriend, describing private conversations and insisting she believed his innocence.
I believed it was a good way to pick up chicks, then I would have pursued every woman I sent this to romantically. But aside from one, I don't think I've pursued any of these women. Yeah, I did send this to my girlfriend as a joke, but we talked for several months before we actually got together. I didn't send it to her as a pickup line, I legitimately just thought it was funny.
He recounted his past struggles with weight gain, at one point describing a period when he drank nothing but water to slim down. He even discussed the fetish artwork fans made of his robotic persona, describing pieces of erotic fan art with a strange mix of pride and embarrassment. For viewers hoping for contrition, it was surreal. What was meant to clear the air instead played like an unedited stream of consciousness that exposed more than any critic ever could. This was quickly dubbed as a masterclass in self-incrimination, because every new revelation seemed to validate the worst assumptions about his behavior. By the time the video ended, any chance of redemption had evaporated. What he called a response looked less like an apology and more like an autopsy of his own career, performed live for an audience that had already decided to walk away. After the disastrous January 18th response video, he seemed unsure of what his channel or his persona should be. Rather than attempt a careful rebrand or a genuine break, he launched a second channel, abruptly pivoting to political commentary. The topics were sweeping and serious: global warming, abortion rights, broad social issues, but his delivery betrayed a creator who hadn't done the homework.
Yeah, I plan to do other videos on different political topics, but for now, I want to focus on global warming. Global warming, also known as climate change, is the belief that humans are affecting the climate of the planet, whether it's through their use of fossil fuels, pollution, or cow farts because they just can't stop eating meat. Global warming is the belief that humans need to be more responsible, or they'll destroy the one planet they currently call home. Anyways, let's go over the political spectrum of global warming, from the most extreme climate change denialist to the people whose biggest fear is global warming.
Instead of presenting research positions or even a firm personal viewpoint, Jar drifted through each subject like a detached moderator. On climate change, he recited surface-level talking points without committing to a conclusion. In his abortion video, he explicitly said he wouldn't share his opinion at all, effectively stripping the discussion of purpose. To longtime followers who once tuned in for sharp drama breakdowns, this new stance-free political content felt hollow and performative, as if he was grabbing at whatever topic might resurrect his algorithmic luck.
Just want to make this clear at the start, I'm not here to share my opinion on abortion, nor am I here to change your opinion on abortion. I'm just making this video to show you that there's a lot more opinions on abortion than just being pro-life or pro-choice.
Audiences responded with silence or worse. View counts sank to around 4,000 per upload, a fraction of his former reach, and the comment section was just filled with mockery. Nearly every new post, no matter the topic, was hijacked by jeers about the Cinebear scandal, sarcastic references to sleepy time calls, and endless jokes about chickens and roosters. Each video's discussion was less about politics and more about reminding him that the internet hadn't forgotten. During occasional live streams, the mask slipped further. In one particular broadcast, Jar admitted he can't hold a job because his off-color humor and habit of making jokes inevitably get him in trouble. He also revealed that he'd lost between 9,000 and 11,000 subscribers in the wake of the Cinebear fiasco. This just shows how far his influence had fallen.
Slowing, but it was slowing even, like, to be fair, at the beginning of this year, but obviously it slowed down significantly more or went down significantly faster.
Yeah.
Over the summer, for sure.
Yeah, I lost like 9 to 11k subs thanks to my drama. How many did you lose?
Early 2025, Just a Robot was scrambling for any project that might reignite his fading presence. His latest idea was a new podcast channel, meant to showcase long-form conversations, and, he hoped, a different side of his personality. The debut episode was to be a recorded call with fellow drama commentator Bo Blacks, a conversation he teased on Twitter as if it would be a clever insider look at the commentary world. What emerged, instead, was a spectacle of uncomfortable oversharing that made the Cinebear scandal look almost restrained. From the opening minutes, the dialogue veered into bizarre territory. Jar tried to bond by saying us whiteys gotta stick together, a comment that landed really badly.
Sure.
We're the same race. We're both white. Us whiteys gotta stick together, man.
For sure.
Moments later, he casually asked, "Who's your favorite file?" A question so outrageous that Bo Blacks could only pause in stunned silence.
I suppose. I mean, that's what...
Hey, who's your favorite file?
The strangeness didn't stop there. Jar fixated on another creator, Nicholas DeOrio, repeatedly calling him cute and admiring his baby face, as though complimenting a friend's newborn.
Yeah, that too, I guess.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie, he has such a baby face. Like, he has such a cute little baby face.
He launched into an extended riff about fitness, promising Bo Blacks that if they ever become gym partners, he'd buy him a t-shirt that said Machine, apparently imagining it as a motivational gesture.
Sometimes hitting the gym can, like, really let the bad toxins out of your mind.
Sometimes.
Like, Bo Blacks, if me and you lived together, we would be such gym bros. I would get you a shirt. After, like, 2 weeks of going to the gym with you, I would get you a shirt that said Machine on it, because that's what you're gonna be once you start, like, really hitting it.
Then came an anecdote that left listeners speechless. A rambling story about being high at a public pool and noticing a teenage girl in a bikini.
One thing I said was, I told this story about how I was by myself at the pool and this family showed up and there was this, like, young girl in a, like, very small bikini.
He insisted the incident was harmless, even responsible. He claimed he left the pool to avoid looking suspicious, but the mere decision to share it on a recorded call was shocking.
And I was like, oh, single guy, I know where this is going. That family gets in the pool. Small percentage chance that I get looked at as a creep. And I thought, my swim is almost done. I'm kind of high, so I'm a little bit paranoid. I'm just going to go home. And people twisted that into me saying, I just couldn't control myself around the 16-year-old. And I might have done something if I stayed there. And I was like, oh, what the f***?
Yeah. You can't, because people will... if they can, they'll dull the nuance of an argument in order to make it look like they're more...
Perhaps most astonishing was that Jar intended to release this conversation himself as the first episode of his new podcast. Before he could edit and upload it, however, Bo Blacks leaked the full recording during a live stream. The fallout was merciless. Fans and critics alike saw the call as definitive proof of what they had long suspected. Jar was profoundly socially inept and oblivious to boundaries. Instead of offering a fresh start, the would-be podcast became yet another public misstep, reinforcing the image of a creator incapable of understanding how his own words would be received. For many viewers, the Bo Blacks call was not just a final embarrassment, but the perfect end to a career defined by self-inflicted wounds. At the end of the day, Just a Robot isn't just another faceless YouTuber. Behind the cartoonish robot facade was a man who built his brand on sharp critiques and strong opinions. But along the way, his own behavior became part of the controversy. From questionable comments to public fallouts, his story reflects the messy, complicated side of YouTube commentary culture. In the end, whether you see him as a harsh truth-teller, a hypocrite hiding behind a mask, or simply a product of YouTube drama culture, one thing is clear. The mask slips more often than he'd like us to believe. And when it does, the audience is left asking, who really is the robot? And where does he stand? For a long time, there was a very specific kind of video that ruled a corner of YouTube. They were simple, usually just a white background, a round little character, and a voice telling a story. Stories about school, stories about bad jobs, stories about awkward moments we've all had at some point in life. They were called storytime animations, and for a while, this genre was everywhere.
Okay, so now you're going to want to make an unprotected left turn over 3 lanes of traffic here. We're going to be turning right, and then you're going to be telling me a new way of getting to my house. Okay? Okay. Okay? Okay!
Millions of people watch creators turn their everyday lives into cartoons. The animation didn't need to be fancy, what mattered was the storytelling. If the story was funny enough, relatable enough, or embarrassing enough, the video could easily reach millions of views. Out of that entire wave of creators, one name rose above almost everyone else. James Rison, better known online as The Odd Ones Out. James wasn't the first person to do storytime animation, but he became one of the biggest faces of it. His videos were easy to watch, easy to understand, and strangely comforting. Using a simple white character and a laid-back storytelling style, James turned ordinary life experiences into entertaining animated stories.
That's not made out of gold. That's not made out of pizza. Eiffel Tower, I feel disappointed!
His stories were usually nothing complicated, but somehow millions of people loved it. His channel exploded in popularity. Millions of subscribers turned into tens of millions. His videos regularly pulled in huge numbers. Some reached over 100 million views. Soon, it wasn't just YouTube anymore. There were books, merchandise, and games, and eventually, even a Netflix show. At one point, it looked like The Odd Ones Out had turned a simple cartoon character into a full media brand. But success on the internet can be a really strange thing, because sometimes the same thing that builds an empire can slowly start to break it. Earlier this year, something unexpected happened. Reports began spreading online that many of the animators working on the Odd Ones Out videos had suddenly been let go. Messages from artists started appearing on social media saying their main source of income had disappeared with little warning. Some claimed the decision came out of nowhere. Others said the team that helped build the channel was simply gone overnight. The backlash was crazy. Fans were confused, artists were angry, and suddenly the image of The Odd Ones Out as the wholesome, friendly animator didn't look so clean anymore. James would eventually respond, saying the artists were freelancers and that the decision was a business necessity.
Have a big budget to them, and I don't want to say the number, but it's like a new car every single time I make a video.
Yeah.
But by this point, the damage had already been done. And the situation had opened a much bigger conversation about how the channel was being run, how the people behind the scenes were treated. In this video, we'll look at all the facts and decide whether the creator who built his career telling relatable stories had slowly become something very different. This is the story of The Odd Ones Out. Before YouTube ever became part of the picture, James Rison was already experimenting with a different way of telling stories online. Instead of videos, he was making simple webcomics and posting them on the internet. When James first started uploading videos nearly a decade ago, the animation looked very different from what people would later associate with The Odd Ones Out. The earliest videos were extremely simple, often just still drawings moving slightly on screen while he narrated a story. The animation itself was minimal, sometimes barely more than a few frames changing while the character talked, but the focus was never really on visual complexity, it was about the story being told.
Hey, Faith, you know what would be funny? If you bump into someone and then say, "Oh, sorry, let me apologize" with my sympathy rub. And then I proceeded to rub my sister's arm, slowly and gently, because that's what a sympathy rub is. I mean, it's not my best work, but I think it's funny.
Those early uploads looked closer to internet comics than traditional animation. The drawings were basic and the movement was limited, resembling the kind of simple web animations that were common online during that time. There were no elaborate backgrounds, no large teams, and no complicated production pipeline behind the scenes. In fact, during this period, James was doing almost everything himself. The videos were created on a laptop using basic tools, and the entire process, from drawing the characters to putting the animation together, was handled by one person. It was a small operation built around a very straightforward idea: draw a character, tell a story, and upload it to YouTube. Because of this, the success of those early videos had very little to do with animation quality. What kept viewers watching was the storytelling. The format relied almost entirely on relatable experiences and humor, with the simple visuals acting more like illustrations for the story rather than the main attraction. The animation existed to support the narrative, not the other way around.
Sitting in the doctor chair because I was about to donate blood, because I do that, and I was thinking, ugh, the next video is like 6 minutes long. That's twice as long as my other videos. I need to come up with a super short video to keep my viewers quiet.
As the channel began to grow, the types of stories James told played a huge role in why people kept coming back. Most of his early videos focused on simple experiences from his own life. He talked about school, childhood memories, awkward situations, and small everyday problems that a lot of people had gone through themselves. These were not dramatic stories or complicated topics, they were ordinary moments, told in a way that made them funny and easy to relate to. That storytelling style turned out to be exactly what many viewers were looking for, and one of the biggest turning points came when James began telling stories about working in retail. His videos about working at that sandwich shop became some of the most popular uploads on the channel. These stories about dealing with customers, co-workers, and the strange situations that come with service jobs struck a chord with viewers who had experienced similar things themselves. The videos were shared widely and quickly became some of the defining content on the channel. As more people discovered these stories, the numbers started climbing rapidly. Some of these early videos pulled in enormous view counts, with several reaching around 100 million views. For a channel built on simple drawings and personal storytelling, those numbers were massive and showed just how strong the audience interest had become. Between roughly 2016 and 2018, the channel experienced its biggest surge in growth. Subscriber numbers climbed into the tens of millions, and the Odd Ones Out became one of the most recognizable names in the entire storytime animation genre, with over 20 million subs today. As the channel kept growing, it slowly became clear that the Odd Ones Out was turning into more than just a YouTube series. With millions of subscribers and massive view counts, the character and style that James had created were now recognizable to a huge online audience, and that kind of attention opened the door for bigger projects. Soon, the brand began stretching beyond YouTube videos. Merchandise started appearing, giving fans the chance to buy clothing and other items connected to the channel. The Odd Ones Out name began showing up on different kinds of products, including a card game and other commercial projects built around the cartoon character people had become familiar with through the videos. That growth eventually led to one of the biggest opportunities in James's career when he secured a deal with Netflix for an animated show called Oddballs. The series took the character and style from the YouTube videos and adapted them into a full television format. Unlike the simple drawings that appeared in the early uploads, the show featured brighter colors, more detailed animation, and a wider cast of characters built around the same world that had started on YouTube. For many creators, landing a Netflix deal is seen as a major milestone, and for a while it seemed like the Odd Ones Out had successfully made the jump from internet animation into mainstream entertainment. The Netflix deal eventually turned into an animated series called Oddballs, which brought the character from the Odd Ones Out channel into a full television format. Unlike the simple drawings that viewers were used to seeing on YouTube, the show featured much more polished animation. The environments were more detailed, the characters moved more fluidly, and the world around the main character felt far more developed than the basic white backgrounds from the original videos.
This ought to be a train wreck, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
I'd like an order of your dino nuggets, please.
Too old to order off the kids' menu.
Too old? I drink juice from squeezy pouches!
It was clear that the production now had a much larger team and a bigger budget behind it. But while the animation quality improved, the reception to the show itself was mixed. Some critics felt the humor leaned too heavily into exaggerated cartoon antics and loud visual gags, rather than the kind of storytelling that originally made the YouTube channel popular. The tone of the show was often described as extremely childish, with scenes built around weird situations and over-the-top reactions, rather than the simple, relatable stories that first attracted viewers. Others argued that many of the jokes relied more on randomness than on carefully written comedy. Instead of building up to punchlines through storytelling, the humor sometimes came from characters doing strange or unexpected things purely for the sake of being weird or energetic. For audiences who had followed James from the early days of his YouTube channel, the shift in tone felt very different from the calm storytelling style that originally defined his content. Despite the scale of the production and the attention that came with a Netflix release, the show did not continue for long. In the end, Oddballs got an 8-episode second season, but failed to secure a third season, bringing the experiment of turning the YouTube character into a long-running streaming series to an early close. As the channel kept growing, the way the videos were produced started to change as well. In the beginning, the animations were simple and mostly handled by James himself, but as the audience grew and expectations increased, the production process became much larger and more complicated. Creating each video now required more planning, more artwork, and more time than the early uploads ever did. Eventually, the channel began relying on a full team of artists to keep the content running. A breakdown of the credits on his most recent videos showed just how large the operation had become. Around 20 people were involved in producing a single upload, including storyboard artists who planned the scenes, animators who brought the characters to life, background artists who built the environments, and designers who created assets used throughout the animation, and in some videos, this number could go as high as 30. As the production grew, the content itself also started to shift. In the early years, most of the videos focused on James telling stories about his own life, but over time, the topics began moving away from those personal experiences. Instead of childhood memories or awkward moments from school, the channel began exploring broader entertainment subjects and trends that were popular online. Some videos started focusing on things like gaming, internet culture, and pop culture topics. There were videos discussing games like Fortnite, comics, videos about Pokemon, and other uploads centered around things that were trending across the internet at the time. While these topics still fit the animated storytelling format, they were noticeably different from the personal stories that had originally built the channel's audience. As this shift happened, some critics began arguing that the content was slowly being aimed at a younger demographic. The tone became louder, the humor more exaggerated, the colors were brighter, and the topics often revolved around things that appealed strongly to younger viewers who were active on YouTube. At the same time, the business side of the channel continued expanding. The Odd Ones Out brand started appearing on a wide range of merchandise. Fans could now buy not only clothing, but plush toys, pins, puzzles, and other products featuring the familiar white character from the videos. For many creators, this kind of expansion is a natural step once a brand becomes popular. But this time it seemed to have gone too far, and it only seemed to get worse because around this same time, another controversy began to form when a mobile game connected to the Odd Ones Out was released and promoted through the channel. The game was advertised to the same audience that watched the videos, and it was presented as another extension of the brand. However, the release quickly drew hate from some viewers and players who noticed that the game included monetization systems commonly found in many mobile games. These systems encourage players to spend money within the game, and this was ironic because James had previously criticized similar practices used by other mobile games.
And you don't even have to enter in your credit card information, so it's easier for kids just to hit the purchase 6,000 gems button. It's targeting kids, and I don't like it.
Not long after the backlash began spreading, the promotional video for the mobile game quietly disappeared from the channel. Its removal only added more attention to the situation, leaving some wondering whether the criticism had played a role in the decision to take the video down. As the production behind the Odd Ones Out grew larger, the financial side of running the channel also became much heavier. Animation has always been one of the most expensive types of content to produce on YouTube or on any platform even. Unlike commentary videos or vlogs where a creator can record and upload within a few hours, animation requires a long process that involves drawing, storyboarding, voice recording, editing, and multiple stages of visual work before a video is finished. Once a full team became involved, those costs increased even more. Estimates suggest that maintaining the animation pipeline for the channel could cost anywhere between $20,000 and $100,000 per month when payroll and production expenses were taken into account. Paying artists, managing the workflow, and coordinating the entire production process meant that every video required a significant investment before it could even be released. The size of the team alone added a large amount of overhead. At certain points, the operation reportedly included around 20 to 25 animators working on different parts of the videos. Even if some of those artists were freelancers rather than full-time employees, managing a group that large still required consistent funding and careful planning to keep projects moving forward. At the same time, the broader environment on YouTube was also beginning to change. Animation videos were no longer dominating the platform the way they had several years earlier. Other types of content were rising in popularity, especially commentary channels, live streaming, and quick reaction style videos that could be produced and uploaded far more frequently. Because those formats were faster to make, many creators began shifting toward them. As a result, storytime animation channels gradually became less dominant on the platform than they had been during the peak years of the genre. While some creators in the space continued to maintain strong audiences, the overall trend suggested that the format was no longer the driving force it once was on YouTube. As the production behind the channel became larger and more complicated, the time it took to release new videos also began to slow down. So far in 2026, only one video from the channel is dropped, and throughout 2025, the channel dropped just 3 videos. This slowdown started raising questions about whether the scale of the production was sustainable, and the math behind the situation began to look difficult for James. You see, if 3 or 4 videos in a year brought in somewhere around 18 to 20 million views in total, estimates suggested that the advertising revenue from those uploads might reach roughly $150,000. While that might sound like a large number at first, it becomes far less impressive once production costs are taken into account. The situation finally spilled into public view in early 2026 when posts began circulating online claiming that many of the animators working on the Odd Ones Out videos had suddenly been let go. One of the first messages that spread widely came from an animator, Antfart. In the post, the artist explained that the entire team had been fired and that their main source of income had disappeared. The message quickly caught the attention of other animators and viewers, especially because the Odd Ones Out had long been seen as one of the biggest animation channels on the platform. If the reports were true, it meant that the people helping produce those videos were suddenly out of work. As more artists began speaking up, a pattern started to form in their responses. Several animators described the situation as abrupt and unexpected. According to them, the layoffs came suddenly, without much warning that such a major change was coming. For some, the loss of the job was more than just an inconvenience. One artist explained that working on the Odd Ones Out videos had been their primary source of income, and losing that work so suddenly was devastating. Animation jobs can be difficult to secure consistently, so being removed from a major project like this meant suddenly losing a stable stream of work. Other members of the team responded in slightly different ways. One animator said they were personally doing fine financially, but still encouraged viewers to support the other artists who had worked on the channel. They asked people to share the portfolios and commission pages of the animators who had been affected so they could find new opportunities. At the same time, several artists admitted they were still confused about what had actually happened. Some said they had very little information about the decision or why it was made. As more messages continued appearing online, the situation began drawing wider attention, turning the whole thing into a public controversy. While the backlash of James's decision spread online, another question quickly became the center of the discussion. What exactly was the employment situation of the animators? People began debating whether the artists who worked on the Odd Ones Out videos were full-time employees or freelancers hired for specific projects. This distinction turned out to be important because the expectations for those two roles are very different. As the discussion continued to spread online, James Rison eventually released a public statement addressing the situation. In his response, he explained that the animation team behind the Odd Ones Out videos had largely been made up of freelancers who were hired depending on the needs of each project. According to him, the size of the team had never been fixed. Some videos required more artists while others required fewer. And over the years, the number of people involved had changed depending on the scope of each upload. From his perspective, the team had always been structured around a flexible production model rather than a permanent staff. As the situation continued to unfold, James explained that one of the biggest reasons behind the decision was the slow pace of production. According to him, the channel had released only 3 videos in an entire year, despite having a large team working on the content. For someone running a business built around expensive animation, that kind of output was difficult to justify. If dozens of people were involved in producing the videos, but only a few uploads were being completed each year, the production model clearly needed to change. Because of that, he said he made the decision to restructure the way the channel operated. Instead of maintaining a large team of artists, the goal would be to scale the operation down and focus on more condensed roles. In other words, fewer people would be involved in producing the videos, and the workflow would be adjusted to make the production process more manageable. James also claimed that he tried to handle the situation carefully when informing the artist about the changes. According to this statement, he spoke with every artist individually and had a one-on-one conversation with the people who had been working on the channel. He insisted that the decision was not delivered through a cold message or mass email, but through direct conversations with the artists involved. He also stated that severance packages were provided to those he described as full-time freelancers, something he said he had not originally planned to make public. In addition to that, he offered to serve as a reference for the artists so they could use his recommendation while applying for other opportunities in the animation industry. In the middle of the backlash, James made it clear that the channel itself was not shutting down, and that animation would still remain part of the Odd Ones Out going forward. According to his statement, there's still an animation team involved in producing future videos, and artists who work on upcoming projects will continue to be credited in the videos they help create. From his perspective, the channel is simply moving forward with a different structure rather than abandoning animation entirely. What has changed, however, is only the scale of the operation. But even with that explanation, the controversy is not fully settled. Discussions about the layoffs continue across social media, animation communities, and commentary channels. Some people believe the decision was simply a business move, made in response to rising costs and slowing production. About the Odd Ones Out situation, he literally just went to people he's commissioning, said, "Sorry, I don't have work for you. I know you rely on me, so have some free money and please try to find something else because I can't guarantee orders currently." People need to calm down. Others feel that the artists who helped build the channel deserved more stability and clearer communication before such a major change was made. Because of these different perspectives, the story has remained complicated. What exactly happened behind the scenes, how the decision was communicated, and whether it was handled properly are still debated, leaving the situation unresolved in the eyes of many observers. But let me know what you guys think in the comments.